The world doesn't reward hard work. It rewards leverage. It doesn't crown the moral. It crowns the bold. And the game you were told to play? It was designed so you would lose before you ever started. Look around you. The exhausted faces on morning trains. The desperate optimism in self-help books. The quiet resignation in the eyes of people counting years until retirement. These are not the faces of people who were told the truth. These are the faces of people who believed the lie and woke up 30 years later wondering where their life went. Wealth is not what they showed you. It's not the car, the watch, the vacation photos designed to make strangers envious. Those are the props. The theater. The circus that keeps the crowd entertained while the real game happens behind closed doors. Real wealth is control. It's the ability to dictate your time. To refuse what you don't want. To walk away from anyone, anything, any situation that doesn't serve you. Wealth is the ultimate form of freedom, and freedom is the one thing the system cannot afford to give you. Because the moment you're free, you're dangerous. Rule 1. The system needs your obedience more than you need its approval. Every institution you've ever trusted was designed with one purpose: to make you dependent. Schools teach you to sit still, follow instructions, and wait for permission. Jobs teach you to trade hours for dollars and call it security. Governments teach you to vote for your preferred master and call it freedom. None of this was an accident. A dependent population is a controllable population. People who need permission don't cause revolutions. People who fear losing what little they have don't take risks. People who believe the system will eventually reward them if they just work harder stay exactly where they are, generation after generation, wondering why nothing changes. You were taught to chase credentials, not capability. Titles, not territory. Recognition from others instead of respect for yourself. They trained you to measure your worth by their standards, using their metrics on their timeline. And every year you played that game, they won. The most dangerous person in any society is the one who doesn't need it. The person who built their own income, their own skills, their own network, their own reality. The person who can look at the entire structure and say, I don't need your permission anymore. That's why they make independence so difficult. Why they mock entrepreneurs as reckless. Why they call ambition greed. Why they convince you that safety is wisdom and risk is foolishness. They need you afraid. Rule 2. Comfort is the most expensive thing you'll ever buy, and you'll pay for it with your life. There's a trap more effective than chains. It's warm. It's predictable. It's called comfort. The prison doesn't need bars when it has a paycheck, a mortgage, and a pension plan. You'll guard your own cell. You'll defend it against anyone who suggests there might be something beyond these walls. Comfort convinces you that this is enough. That wanting more is greedy. That the safe path is the smart path. That the known misery is better than the unknown possibility. And year by year, choice by choice, you'll trade pieces of yourself for that comfort. Your time. Your creativity. Your dreams. Your dignity. You'll hand it all over, piece by piece, and call it being responsible. Look at the people 20 years ahead of you on the path you're walking. Look at them closely. Are they free? Are they alive? Or are they comfortable? There's a reason the same people who tell you to be realistic are the ones who gave up on their own dreams. Misery doesn't just love company. It recruits aggressively. The comfortable life is a slow death. It's the warm bath you sink into while your life bleeds out one day at a time. And the tragedy isn't that people choose comfort. The tragedy is that they choose it and then spend the rest of their lives pretending it was wisdom instead of fear. You cannot build an empire from a couch. You cannot conquer anything while playing it safe. Fortune favors the bold not because the universe is fair, but because boldness is the only thing that breaks through the noise. Rule 3. Your time is the only non-renewable resource you have, and you're selling it at a discount. Every hour you trade for money is an hour you'll never get back. Not for any price. Not under any circumstances. Gone. The fundamental transaction that keeps the system running is simple. You sell your time, someone else buys your production, and they keep the difference. They win every single time because they own the game. An employee mindset thinks in hours. A business owner thinks in systems. An employee asks, "How much will you pay me?" An owner asks, "How much value can I capture?" The cruel mathematics of trading time for money is this. There's a ceiling. You can optimize, you can negotiate, you can climb the ladder. But there are only 24 hours in a day, and you're mortal. The math will never work in your favor. The only escape is leverage. You need to own something that works when you don't. Assets, systems, attention, distribution, anything that multiplies your effort instead of limiting it to your physical presence. This is why the wealthy buy assets and the poor buy comfort. This is why the rich invest in what appreciates and the broke invest in what impresses. This is why one group builds empires while the other builds excuses. When you work for someone else, you're building their dream with your life. Your sweat becomes their equity. Your creativity becomes their profit. Your time becomes their freedom. And they'll thank you for it. They'll call you valuable. They'll give you a title. They'll throw you a bonus. Just enough to keep you hungry. Just enough to keep you hoping. Never enough to let you leave. Rule 4. The difference between the powerful and the powerless is ownership, nothing else. Power isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. Power is quiet control. It's the ability to change the rules while others play by them. It's owning the casino while everyone else gambles. You don't get power from working harder. You get it from owning more. More equity. More control. More leverage. More of the mechanism that produces value instead of just being a cog inside it. An employee can be replaced. An owner cannot. An employee is a cost. An owner is equity. An employee hopes for raises. An owner decides who gets paid. This isn't about fairness. It never was. This is about structure. About position. About who owns what when value is created. The fundamental question isn't how hard you work. It's who owns the output of that work. Because whoever owns the output owns the future. Everything else is just labor. Look at every wealthy person you can think of. Not the ones who got lucky. Not the athletes or entertainers who sold their body and fame. Look at the ones who stayed wealthy. What do they own? They own businesses, real estate, intellectual property, distribution channels, attention, brands, systems that produce value without their constant presence. They built machines. And those machines work whether they're awake or asleep, motivated or depressed, young or old. You've been taught to admire their discipline, their morning routines, their work ethic. That's the story they sell. But the truth is simpler and more brutal. They own things, and you don't. Rule 5. Money follows desire, not effort. Build what people want, not what you think they should want. The market doesn't care about your effort. It doesn't care how hard you worked, how many hours you invested, how passionate you are about your vision. The market cares about one thing. Does this solve my problem or satisfy my desire right now? You can spend 10 years building something perfect that nobody wants. Or you can spend 10 days building something flawed that everyone needs. The market will reward the second and ignore the first. This is where most people fail. They fall in love with their solution before validating the problem. They build what makes them feel clever instead of what makes other people reach for their wallet. Money is a measuring stick for value delivered. Not value imagined. Not value intended. Value received. The person who understands human desire will always beat the person who understands hard work. Because humans don't buy what's best. They buy what they want. What makes them feel something. What solves their pain or amplifies their pleasure right now. This is why marketing matters more than the product. Why perception beats reality. Why the story you tell is worth more than the thing you sell. You're not in the business of creating the best possible product. You're in the business of creating the perception of transformation. People don't buy things. They buy better versions of themselves. They buy the promise of change. Give them that promise, deliver enough of it to create believers, and money will follow. Not because you deserve it. Not because you worked hard, but because you understood the game. Rule 6. Knowledge without action is just expensive entertainment. Motion beats meditation every time. You know enough. You've always known enough. The information age gave you the ultimate excuse. There's always more to learn. One more course. One more book. One more guru with the secret formula. One more video that will finally give you clarity. And while you're learning, someone dumber and bolder is doing. And winning. The gap between knowing and doing is where dreams go to die. It's the gap filled with fear disguised as preparation. With perfectionism masquerading as excellence. With endless research pretending to be due diligence. You don't need another blueprint. You need to move. Imperfect action beats perfect planning every single time because imperfect action generates data. Real feedback from real markets with real consequences. That's worth more than 1,000 theoretical models. The world rewards people who ship, who launch, who put something into the world and see what happens. It punishes people who wait for perfect conditions that never arrive. Every successful person you admire made their first move when they weren't ready. They launched before they were perfect. They sold before they were confident. They built their plane on the way down. The difference between them and you isn't intelligence or talent or resources. It's that they were willing to be bad at something new. They were willing to fail small and learn fast. You're waiting for certainty in a world that doesn't offer it. You're waiting for permission in a game that rewards the bold. You're waiting for the right time, which is another way of saying you're waiting forever. Start. Fail. Adjust. Repeat. That's the formula. Not because it's inspiring. Because it's the only thing that actually works. Rule 7. Risk isn't dangerous. Permanent poverty is dangerous. Choose your risk carefully. You've been taught to fear risk. To see it as reckless. As something responsible people avoid. But you're taking risk every single day. The risk that your job disappears. The risk that your industry becomes obsolete. The risk that inflation destroys your savings. The risk that you'll reach 65 and realize you have nothing but regrets. The question isn't whether you'll take risks. It's which risks you'll take. Will you risk temporary failure or permanent regret? Will you risk short-term embarrassment or long-term mediocrity? Will you risk losing money you can make back or time you can never recover? The safe path isn't safe. It's just slow. It's the risk of dying without ever living. Of reaching the end and realizing you spent your entire life preparing for a life you never started. Calculated risk is the price of admission to anything worth having. The person who risks nothing controls nothing, owns nothing, becomes nothing. But understand this, there's a difference between bold and stupid. Between calculated aggression and reckless desperation. Smart risk means you can survive being wrong. It means you don't bet everything on one outcome. It means you protect your downside while maximizing your upside. Stupid risk is what broke people do when they're desperate. Smart risk is what rich people do when they're strategic. The wealthy take more risks than the poor, not fewer. But they take different risks. They risk capital, not survival. They risk being wrong, not being destroyed. They have the cushion to fail multiple times because they built that cushion by taking earlier risks. This is the paradox. You need to take risks to build safety. And you need some safety to take better risks. The key is starting before you feel ready and stopping before you're ruined. Rule 8. Fear is a compass, not a cage. It points toward what you need to do, not what you need to avoid. Everything you want is on the other side of the thing you're afraid to do. That conversation you're avoiding. That business you're scared to start. That price you're afraid to charge. That person you're intimidated to approach. That's the path. Fear isn't evidence that you're on the wrong track. It's evidence that you're approaching something that matters. Something that could change everything. Something real. The comfortable life is the fearless life. No risk. No stakes. No possibility of failure because there's no possibility of success. Just the slow grind of safety until you die. Every empire was built by someone who was terrified. Every fortune was started by someone who didn't know if it would work. Every revolution was led by someone who could have chosen comfort instead. The difference is they moved anyway. Not because they weren't afraid, but because they understood that fear is information, not instruction. It tells you what matters. It doesn't tell you what to do. Comfort whispers, stay here. You're safe. Don't risk what you have. Fear shouts, this matters. This could change everything. Pay attention. Most people obey comfort and ignore fear. They should do the opposite. When you feel that tightness in your chest before you hit send, before you publish, before you ask, before you launch, that's not a warning. That's a signal. That's your body telling you this matters. The things you're most afraid of are usually the things you most need to do. Not because fear is wise, but because fear appears when stakes are high. And high stakes mean high reward. Rule 9. Money reveals character, it doesn't build it. Get your mind right before you chase wealth. Money is an amplifier. It makes you more of what you already are. If you're generous when broke, you'll be generous when rich. If you're bitter when poor, you'll be bitter when wealthy. If you're undisciplined with a little, you'll be undisciplined with a lot. This is why lottery winners go broke. Why athletes lose everything. Why inheritance destroys families. Money without the capacity to manage it is just a delayed catastrophe. You think money will solve your problems. It won't. It will multiply them. Every weakness you have now will become expensive later. Every bad habit will scale. Every unresolved issue will compound. The person who can't manage $1,000 won't suddenly become responsible with $1 million. The person who blames others when broke will blame others when rich. The person who's miserable in poverty will just be miserable in a nicer house. Before you chase wealth, fix yourself. Build discipline. Develop character. Learn to manage what you have. Prove you can be trusted with a little before you demand a lot. This isn't moral advice. This is practical strategy. Wealth without wisdom is temporary. Money without maturity is dangerous. Success without self-control is a ticking bomb. The universe has a way of taking money away from people who aren't ready for it. Not because it's cruel. Because money reveals who you are, and most people don't like what they see. Get your mind right first. Build the container before you fill it. Become the person who can hold wealth before you chase it. Because the money will come. That's the easy part. Keeping it, growing it, using it wisely, that requires someone you might not be yet. Rule 10. Everyone wants you to succeed, but not more than them. Protect yourself accordingly. The moment you start winning, you'll discover who your real friends are. And the list is shorter than you think. People will celebrate your journey as long as you're behind them. The second you pass them, watch what happens. The support turns to silence. The encouragement becomes envy. The cheerleaders become critics. This isn't cynicism. This is pattern recognition. Humans are tribal, competitive, comparative. Your success makes them question their choices. Your freedom highlights their cage. Your boldness exposes their fear. They won't hate you for failing. They'll hate you for succeeding. Some will smile to your face and sabotage behind your back. Some will ask for advice they'll never use just to find reasons why it won't work. Some will celebrate your wins publicly and resent them privately. This is why the wealthy seem paranoid. Why they guard information. Why they're careful who they trust. Not because they're cruel. Because they learned. You'll learn too. The hard way, probably. Someone you helped will try to compete with you using what you taught them. Someone you trusted will share your strategy with your competition. Someone you thought was loyal will leave the moment they get a better offer. Expect this. Plan for this. Protect yourself accordingly. Keep your plans quiet until they're too late to stop. Share your wins selectively. Trust carefully. Document everything. Build redundancy into every system. Loyalty is rare. Self-interest is constant. The person who understands this survives. The person who doesn't gets betrayed and wonders how it happened. This doesn't mean become closed and bitter. It means become wise and protected. Help people, but don't make yourself dependent on their gratitude. Trust people, but verify. Build relationships, but maintain independence. The lone wolf dies, but the naive pack leader dies first. Rule 11. The game is multiplayer, and most players are trying to keep you losing. Learn the rules they won't teach you. You're playing a game where everyone pretends the rules don't exist. They tell you it's about hard work and merit and fairness. Meanwhile, they're using networks you don't have access to. Information you're not supposed to know. Strategies that are never taught in school. The game has always been multiplayer. Your success or failure isn't just about you. It's about everyone else playing the same game, most of whom benefit from you not knowing how it works. Your employer benefits from you not knowing your market value. Your competitors benefit from you not understanding positioning. The system benefits from you not realizing it's a system. They need you to believe it's about hard work because hard workers are profitable. They need you to believe it's about patience because patient people don't demand change. They need you to believe it's about fairness because that belief keeps you playing a rigged game. The real rules. They're never written down. Access matters more than credentials. Who you know beats what you know. Perception is more valuable than reality. Timing and positioning beat effort and skill. The wealthy teach their children these rules. The system hides them from yours. Learn them anyway. Understand leverage. Master influence. Build real relationships with people who have what you want. Study power, not productivity. Learn psychology, not just tactics. The people at the top didn't get there by being the best. They got there by understanding the game better than everyone else. By knowing which rules mattered and which were theater. You can either spend your life wondering why hard work didn't pay off, or you can learn the actual rules and play to win. The choice is yours. But understand, ignorance isn't innocence in this game. It's just guaranteed failure. Rule 12. Fortune favors the bold, but only the bold who act. Everything you want requires you to start before you're ready. There's a moment in every success story that nobody talks about. It's not the victory. Not the breakthrough. Not the moment everything clicked. It's the moment when someone who had no guarantee, no certainty, no proof it would work, decided to move anyway. That's the moment. That's the only moment that matters. Everything else is just consequences. You're waiting for conditions that will never be perfect. For confidence that only comes from experience you won't get until you start. For permission from people who will never give it because they're too afraid to take the same risk. The successful didn't wait. They started scared. They launched incomplete. They figured it out on the way. Not because they were braver. Because they understood something you don't yet. The cost of inaction is always higher than the cost of action. Every day you wait is a day your competition doesn't. Every day you prepare is a day you could be learning from real feedback. Every day you overthink is a day you could be building. The market doesn't reward the most prepared. It rewards the first mover. The one who ships while others are still planning. The one who's on version 10 while others are still perfecting version 1 in private. Your first attempt will probably fail. Good. That's data. That's education. That's proof you're in the arena instead of the audience. You'll make mistakes. You'll waste money. You'll look foolish. You'll question everything. And if you keep moving anyway, you'll win eventually. Not because you're special. Because attrition is real. Because most people quit at the first obstacle, and you'll outlast them simply by staying in the game. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful isn't talent or intelligence or even luck. It's that the successful kept playing after everyone else went home. The choice. So here's what happens next. You can close this and return to the comfortable lie. Convince yourself you'll start tomorrow. Next month. When conditions are better. When you're more ready. When the timing is right. You'll post on social media about dreams and goals. You'll consume more content about success. You'll tell people about what you're going to do someday. And every year that passes, that someday will feel further away until eventually you stop talking about it altogether. That's one option. It's the path most people take. There's no shame in it. The cage is comfortable. The lie is beautiful. And you can spend your entire life there wondering what might have been. Or you can do something different. You can accept that everything you were taught about success was designed to keep you manageable. That the game is rigged but still winnable if you stop playing by their rules. That comfort is the enemy, and risk is the price, and action is the only currency that matters. You can start building what you actually want instead of optimizing what you're supposed to want. You can trade security for freedom, approval for autonomy, the known path for the uncertain one that might actually lead somewhere. But understand what you're choosing. This path is lonely. It's uncertain. It's uncomfortable. You'll be criticized by people who are too afraid to try. You'll be doubted by people who need you to fail so they don't have to question their own choices. You'll face obstacles you didn't anticipate and challenges you're not prepared for. And somewhere in all that chaos and uncertainty and risk, you might just build something that matters. Something that's yours. Something that gives you the one thing the system can never afford to give you: control over your own life. The choice is yours. It's always been yours. But make it now. Because tomorrow is the most popular day to start, and almost nothing begins there. The game is happening with or without you. The only question is whether you'll play or watch. Move.